The first time I asked it, I didn't mean to. It slipped out the way some truths do, quiet, almost polite, like they're testing the room before they decide whether to stay. It was a Friday night, rainy in that steady, patient way that makes the whole world sound far away. My apartment smelled like soy sauce and warm cardboard from the takeout we'd eaten straight out of the containers. The movie we'd put on was paused, the TV casting a faint blue glow that made the living room feel like an aquarium. The only real light came from the lamp in the corner, soft and honey-colored, pooling on the rug and catching the dust in the air. Ryan was on my couch with his feet tucked under him, wearing the gray hoodie he always stole from me, even though the sleeves were too short on his arms. He was there, but he wasn't. His attention kept drifting, like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. His fingers worried at a loose thread on the cuff. Pull, release, an anxious metronome. I'd been talking about my day, complaining in a way that was meant to be soothing. A coworker, a dumb email chain, the kind of small drama you tell someone you love because it's safe and normal. Ryan nodded in the right places and smiled when I smiled, but his eyes kept going distant. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "Do you ever feel like you're wearing the right skin?" I stopped mid-sentence. "What?" He shrugged like he hadn't meant to say it, like his mouth had betrayed him. "Nothing. Forget it." But I couldn't. The words lodged in my chest. Ryan wasn't the kind of guy who tossed out strange questions for fun. He was careful. He was the type to run a thought through 10 filters before he let it touch the air. I turned my body toward him on the couch, slow enough not to startle him. "Hey," I said, "talk to me." His jaw tightened. "It's not a big deal." "It doesn't sound like nothing," I said. "Not the way you said it." He stared at his hands, the thread snapped and he flinched, like even that tiny break felt like a mistake. I watched him for a moment and my mind did what it always did when something felt off. It rewound. It pulled up small scenes like receipts. The way he sometimes lingered when I got ready, pretending to scroll his phone while his eyes kept flicking to my lipstick, my earrings, the way I chose a sweater or a skirt. The way he'd asked me once, too casually, how I got eyeliner so straight, then laughed it off like he was only curious about the technique. The way he sometimes touched fabric with the backs of his fingers, like he wanted to feel softness without admitting he wanted it. And then a memory from the beginning, sharp as a flashbulb. Tessa's birthday party, crowded kitchen, music too loud. Ryan had been leaning against the counter with a beer he wasn't drinking, watching me laugh with a group of girls like he was studying a language he wanted to speak. Not in a creepy way, in a longing way. Later, outside on the balcony, he'd said, half joking, "You're effortless." I'd rolled my eyes and told him he was insane because nothing about being a woman was effortless, and he'd smiled like he loved that I pushed back. Now sitting beside him in the rain-lit quiet, that word effortless came back with a different weight, like it wasn't about ease, like it was about permission. I set my drink down on the coffee table and scooted a little closer, not crowding him, just making the space between us smaller, warmer. "Ryan," I said, "do you feel like you're wearing the wrong skin?" His throat bobbed. He didn't answer. And I don't know what possessed me, but the question rose up in me, soft and dangerous at the same time. It came out before I could decide whether it was wise. "Ever wanted to be me?" I asked gently. The room changed, not in a dramatic way. The lamp didn't flicker, the rain didn't suddenly thunder. But the air thickened, like my words had pulled something heavy from the bottom of him and set it in the middle of the couch between us. Ryan went completely still. His fingers stopped moving, his gaze fixed on the cushion like if he looked at me, I'd see straight through him. The silence hit hard. It wasn't just quiet, it was wait. It felt like waiting for a verdict. For a second, panic flared in me. I wanted to laugh and say I didn't mean it, to grab the remote and make a joke, to rewind the night to before I'd stepped on a landmine. But then Ryan exhaled, a slow, shaky breath that sounded like it had been trapped behind his ribs for years. "I don't know," he whispered. It wasn't a no, it wasn't a yes, it was something else, something closer to fear. I kept my voice steady on purpose. "You don't know if you've ever wanted to be me?" He swallowed. "I don't know if I'm allowed to say it." There it was, Not the answer, just the fence around it. You're allowed to say what you feel, I said. I might not understand right away, but I'm not going to punish you for being honest. He blinked hard like he was trying not to cry. His mouth opened, closed. He looked at me like he was searching for the moment when I would turn sharp. I stayed soft, stayed still. Finally, he nodded once, small. Okay, he said, and his voice cracked. He ran a hand through his hair, messing it up, then immediately tried to smooth it down again, like he couldn't stand evidence of disruption. It's not about you, he started. It can involve me, I said quietly. But okay, tell me in your words. Ryan stared at his hands again. Sometimes I look at you and He stopped, frustration tightening his face. I feel this pull. A pull, I repeated. He nodded, jaw clenched. Like you get to exist in a way that feels real. Like you can be soft and still be respected. You can wear something that changes how you feel, and it means something, and nobody calls you pathetic for wanting it. My chest tightened. I didn't interrupt. I let him keep going. And I know it's not all good, he rushed on, like he could hear the objections he imagined in my head. I know you deal with stuff I don't. I know it's not easy. But sometimes I'm jealous. Jealous was a dangerous word for him. He said it like he expected it to explode. I didn't flinch. I didn't laugh. I didn't do the reflexive thing that would make him slam the door shut again. I said, okay. He looked up, startled by my calm. Okay? Yeah, I said. Keep going. His eyes shimmered. He swallowed hard. I don't know if I'm jealous of you, he whispered, or jealous of what you represent. What do I represent? I asked carefully. He let out a short, humorless laugh. Permission. The word hit me like a bell. Permission to what? I asked. His shoulders rose and fell. To be seen, to be expressive, to wear something that isn't armor. He said armor like he tasted the metal of it. I took a slow breath. Ryan, I said gently, have you ever wanted to wear what I wear? He squeezed his eyes shut, like the question was too bright. Then, barely audible, yes. The answer was small, but it rewrote the room. My mind snapped 100 little moments into place, and suddenly I wasn't confused anymore. I was just sad, not sad at him, sad for him, because wanting softness shouldn't feel like a crime. Thank you for telling me, I said softly. He blinked at me like he didn't expect gratitude. Are you freaked out? No, I said honestly. I'm moved, and I'm sad you've been carrying this alone. His face tightened like he didn't want to let himself feel that. I didn't want you to think I was weird, he said, or that I was lying about who I am. Are you lying to me? I asked. He shook his head fast. No, God, no. I love you. I love being with you. I'm not trying to. He swallowed, voice dropping. I'm not trying to become you. I know, I said. So tell me what it is. He stared down again. Sometimes I want to step out of the role I'm in, the expectation. He made a helpless gesture. As a guy, it's always be chill, be tough, don't care too much, don't be delicate, don't be dramatic. And sometimes I feel like I'm suffocating. I nodded slowly because that made a brutal kind of sense. And when I'm with you, he continued, I see you doing these little things, choosing perfume, picking an outfit, painting your nails, and it's not shallow. It's expressive. It's like you're allowed to decorate your existence. And I want that. Decorate your existence. The phrase hit me so hard I had to blink. You can, I said before I could overthink it. He gave a short laugh. No, I can't. Yes, I said, gentle but firm. Maybe not publicly tomorrow. Maybe not in a way that feels safe yet. But in some way, somewhere, you can. His eyes flicked up. With you? I didn't answer too fast. I wasn't interested in performing open-mindedness. I wanted this to be real, sustainable, safe for both of us. With me, I said carefully, if you want, but we do it slowly, and you get to set boundaries. His shoulders dropped as if his body had been bracing for impact and finally realized it could unclench. I don't even know where to start, he admitted. Start with safety, I said. He repeated it under his breath like a foreign word. Safety. Yes, I said. We can make a plan, not a dramatic plan, a quiet one. He looked at me like he didn't understand that fear could be turned into steps. A plan? He asked. 3 parts, I said, because my brain likes structure when emotions feel huge. Clothes, private time, support. He swallowed. Okay. Clothes, I said first. Not like a prank, not like dress up for laughs. We pick things that feel comfortable, neutral, soft. We start with fabric, not identity. He frowned slightly, like he didn't know those could be separate. You don't have to jump straight to something intense, I added. Maybe it's a soft sweater, lounge pants, something you can wear in private, something that feels like relief, not pressure. His cheeks flushed. I don't know what would feel like me. We can find out, I said. Private time, I continued. Not secret like you're doing something wrong, just a designated window where you can try things without fear of interruption. Phones off, no jokes, no pressure, and you can stop anytime. He let out a breath that sounded almost grateful. And support, I said gently, that isn't just me. A therapist who understands gender expression without treating it like a problem. Someone who can help you untangle what's envy, what's joy, what's fear, without you doing it alone. His mouth tightened. Therapist makes it sound like I'm broken. No, I said. Therapist means you deserve tools. You're not broken for wanting to understand yourself. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded once, small. And community, I added, if you want, not necessarily public. Even just knowing you're not alone, stories, online spaces, something that makes your brain stop telling you you're the only one. Ryan's eyes dropped. I've looked things up, he admitted. Of course you have, I said softly. That's not shameful. That's you trying to find yourself in the dark. His eyes shone again. He blinked hard, embarrassed by the emotion. I let the quiet settle between us, not the heavy silence from before. A different kind, like we'd both stepped into a room we didn't know existed and were letting our eyes adjust. Then I said, "Can I ask the question again? The original one?" He glanced up, wary but less frightened now. Ever wanted to be me? I asked gently. This time the silence didn't slam, it unfolded. I think, he said slowly, I wanted what you have, not your life, not your body, but the freedom, the softness, the permission. I nodded. And sometimes, he admitted, voice quieter, I wondered what it would feel like to move through the world the way you do, to wear something that flows, to feel, he swallowed, pretty. Pretty trembled on his tongue like it might get him hurt. My throat tightened. There is something devastating about watching someone treat their own tenderness like contraband. Okay, I whispered. Then we start with pretty being a word you're allowed to use. He blinked at me, startled. Allowed. Yes, I said, soft smile. Allowed. He exhaled, shaky. I don't know if I can do this. You don't have to do it all tonight, I said. Tonight, you already did the hardest part. You told me. His face softened. I thought you'd leave. The plainness of it broke something in me. I leaned in and kissed his cheek, small, steady, not a performance. I'm not leaving tonight, I said, and I'm not going to punish you for being human. He closed his eyes, shoulders sagging into the couch like his body finally believed it could rest. Do you want to try something small right now? I asked. His eyes opened, nervous. Like what? Fabric, I said, and stood. I didn't run to my closet like it was a makeover montage. I didn't grab a dress and wave it around. I went to my bedroom and chose the softest, most neutral things I owned. An oversized cream sweater I wore when I was sick or sad, and plain black lounge leggings. Comfort, simplicity, no lace, no performance, no pressure. When I returned, Ryan sat up straighter immediately, eyes darting to the clothes like they were dangerous. These are, he started. Options, I said, placing them on the coffee table. You don't have to put anything on. You can just hold them, touch them, see what happens inside you. He stared for a long moment, swallowing. I feel ridiculous, he murmured. Most new things feel ridiculous, I said gently. That's not the same as wrong. He reached out slowly. His fingers brushed the sweater sleeve. He flinched, then tried again. This time he let his hand rest there, rubbing the fabric between thumb and forefinger. His face changed, small but unmistakable. The tightness eased. His mouth softened. He looked calmer. It's soft, he whispered, like softness itself was shocking. Yeah, I said, it is. He picked up the sweater and held it in his lap. For a moment he just breathed, like he was trying to trust his own body's response. Then, very quietly, can I? He didn't have to finish the sentence. The question was in his eyes. Yes, I said, only if you want, and only how you want. His cheeks flushed. I don't want you to watch, he admitted quickly. Not yet. Okay, I said immediately. Do you want me in the kitchen? He nodded fast. Yeah. I stood and went to the kitchen sink, busying my hands with rinsing the takeout containers, even though they were basically clean already. My heart hammered, but I kept my movements slow and ordinary, like this was just another part of our evening. Behind me, I heard the soft rustle of fabric, then a pause, like fear had grabbed the moment and tried to freeze it. Then a long exhale. Lucy? His voice came, small. Yeah, I answered gently. I'm here. If I hate it, he said, can we pretend this never happened? My chest tightened. If you hate it, we'll talk about it, I said, but we don't have to pretend. Pretending is what makes it poison. Silence, then a breath. Okay, he whispered. A few seconds passed. You can look, he said, voice trembling. If you want. I turned slowly. Ryan stood in my living room wearing my cream sweater. It fit him differently, broader shoulders, longer arms, but the softness didn't care about gender. It just draped. He hadn't touched the leggings. He'd chosen one step, one boundary, one piece of permission. His hands hovered at his sides like he didn't know where they belonged. His face was flushed, eyes wide, braced for me to ruin it. I kept my expression gentle, steady, no teasing, no awe that would make him feel like a spectacle, just presence. You look comfortable, I said softly. His eyes blinked fast. I feel weird. Weird isn't bad, I said. Weird is new. A breath escaped him that sounded like a laugh tangled with a sob. I can't believe I'm doing this, he whispered. I can, I said, because you're brave. He shook his head, almost angry. It doesn't feel brave. It feels like I'm about to get caught. That sentence hit me like a bruise, like his body had been living in anticipation of punishment. You're not getting caught, I said gently. You're safe here. His shoulders dropped a fraction. He looked down at the sweater sleeve, then pulled it over his hand the way I did when I was cold. That tiny mirrored gesture made my throat burn because it wasn't imitation. It was yearning finally allowed to be visible. It feels, he whispered, like breathing. I nodded because if I spoke too much, I might cry and make him feel responsible for my reaction. Okay, I said. Then we respect that. He swallowed, eyes shining. What if this means I'm not who I said I was? You're still Ryan, I said. You're also more than the version of Ryan you thought you were allowed to be. He stared at me, and I watched the words land, not perfectly, not all at once, but enough. He sat back down on the couch, still wearing the sweater. For a while, we just sat there, shoulder to shoulder, letting the moment be ordinary so it wouldn't feel like a crime scene. Then we talked, quietly, honestly, without trying to solve him in one night. He told me about being younger and feeling pulled toward softness, toward certain colors, and learning fast that boys weren't allowed to want that. He told me about locker rooms and the casual cruelty of men policing each other. He told me about the way he'd sometimes felt like he was performing Guy instead of inhabiting himself. I told him about my own performance, how femininity can be armor too, how I'd learned to smile through discomfort, how I'd been praised for being pretty and punished for being loud. It wasn't a competition, just two people admitting the roles we'd inherited had sharp edges. At one point, Ryan said, I don't know what label fits me. You don't need one tonight, I said. Tonight you need safety. He nodded, slow. Okay. We refined the plan out loud so it wouldn't live in vague shame. Clothes. We'd start with neutral pieces. Soft, comforting, not costume. Maybe we'd order a few things online so he could choose privately. Maybe someday we'd go to a different town and shop together where no one knew him, if he wanted that. The goal was control and consent. Private time, Sunday afternoons, 2 hours, phones off. No pictures unless he asked. A rule that he could stop at any point, and a rule that I wouldn't bring any of it up in front of other people unless he explicitly wanted that. Support, I offered to help him find a therapist with experience in gender expression and identity exploration, someone who wouldn't pathologize him. He hesitated, old reflex, then nodded, like the idea of not doing this alone was both terrifying and relieving. Community. He could keep reading and lurking if that felt safe. Anonymous groups if he wanted. The goal was simple. His brain needed proof he wasn't alone. Then I said, because I wanted to protect us too, we should talk about what you need from me and what I need from you. He looked startled. You need something? Yes, I said gently. We're still a couple. I need honesty. I need you to tell me when you're scared instead of disappearing. And I need us to check in so neither of us feels alone. He nodded immediately. Yes, I can do that. And what do you need? I asked. His voice was small. I need you to not make me feel like a joke. My heart squeezed. Never, I said. And I need you to tell me if it ever feels like too much for you, he added, eyes shiny. I can't handle the thought of you quietly resenting me. I reached for his hand. Deal, I said. We don't do quiet resentment. We do honest conversations. He squeezed my hand like it was a lifeline. Eventually, the rain stopped. The window went dark with night, and my apartment felt like a small, safe world. Ryan looked down at the sweater he was still wearing and said, almost embarrassed, "Can I keep it on a little longer?" Yes, I said, and meant it. As long as you want. His face softened in a way I hadn't seen before, not just relaxed, unmasked. Later, when he finally took it off, he folded it carefully, too carefully, like it was sacred. He set it on the couch armrest, like it deserved respect. At the door, before he left, he hesitated with his hand on the knob. What if I wake up tomorrow and hate myself? He asked, voice low. Then you text me, I said. You don't sit alone in it. You remember how you breathed. He swallowed. Okay. And Ryan, I added, that question, ever wanted to be me? It isn't a test. You don't have to answer it like one. He looked at me, confused. It can change, I said. It can mean different things on different days. We don't have to trap it. His shoulders loosened. Okay. He leaned in and kissed me, soft, grateful, real. Not like a man trying to prove something, but like a person asking to be met. After he left, the apartment felt quieter than before, but not empty, changed. Like the air had been rearranged. I cleaned up the takeout, turned off the TV, and sat on the couch where he'd been. The sweater lay folded nearby, a simple piece of fabric that had become a symbol of something bigger, a crack in a wall where light could get in. I knew it wouldn't be easy. Shame doesn't dissolve in one conversation. Fear doesn't pack its bags because someone says you're allowed. There would be awkwardness and negotiations and days Ryan would retreat. There would be days I'd need reassurance too. We were building something new without a map. But I also knew something I couldn't unsee now, the way his face softened when he felt safe, the way his breath deepened when he stopped performing, the way his eyes looked when he realized he could tell the truth and still be loved. Maybe the real answer to my question wasn't yes or no. Maybe the real answer was that he wanted to be himself, the version of himself that didn't have to fight his own tenderness, the version that could decorate his existence without shame. And maybe my role wasn't to hand him a label or push him toward any conclusion. Maybe my role was simpler and harder, to keep making space, to keep asking gentle questions, to keep turning fear into permission, one careful step at a time. Before I went to bed, I texted him, "Proud of you, no pressure, you're safe with me." The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then his reply, "Thank you." I could breathe. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred, then set my phone down and pressed my palm against my chest, feeling my own heartbeat steady and real. Somewhere in the dark, Ryan was going home in his own skin, still the same man, and also not the same at all. And for the first time since I'd known him, I had the quiet, stubborn sense that he wasn't running from himself anymore. Not perfectly, not publicly, but honestly, with a plan, with a door cracked open, with permission.